I'm going to reset my workspace because I think that's the best practice. I'm going to reset it so that way all my panels are in the same place. I'm going to open up the layers panel. Okay, and one of the things that I might do when I'm illustrating something more complicated, I might break up my layers into the different parts of the pencil. So I might make a bunch of layers and then just name it like that. So I'm going to click a bunch of times. All right, so lead, wood, yellow, eraser, metal. Okay, so I have a layer for each one of these major objects. It doesn't mean I draw it in that layer. I can always move it later, but at least I have it set up for me to use at a later point in time. Okay, so when I first draw the shape or the path around the object, when I draw it, I like to draw it with a color that contrasts or separates my object from the original. So usually I draw it in one of two colors. I either draw my object with a red outline and no fill, or a blue outline and no fill. The only time I don't use red is when the object is red. Does that make sense? So if I was going to trace around a red rose, I'm not going to use a red outline. I can't see it. I'm going to use a blue outline. So the majority of this I can see with a red edge, except for the eraser. So I'm going to draw most of this with a red stroke and no fill. Okay, so my goal is to draw the object, scale it to the right size using the bounding box or whatever tool you want to use, and then I'm going to place it directly over the object, and then I'm going to sample the color for it. Okay, so we're going to learn the eyedropper tool. The eyedropper tool allows me to sample the color of the object. Okay, so let's see that happen. All right, so I'm going to start with my eraser over here. And somebody said that I could use a rounded rectangle. So because this is red, I'm going to draw this first object with a blue outline. Okay, so let me tear this set away of primitives. All right, so I'm going to hover over this. What does this say? Rectangle, rounded rectangle. Oh, there it is. So I'm going to click on the rounded rectangle, and I'm going to try to draw the object. Okay, I didn't get it right. I didn't draw it right. It's not the right size, but I know that I can always change it. And as I mentioned earlier, I like to draw it with a color where I can contrast it. So I'm going to scale this down and try to get it to the size of the original. Oops. Oh, my layer does not seem to be working. What's going on here? I think my radius is too big. So check out these corners right here. You see these little dots? They look like a little bullseye. You guys see those? These are called corner widgets. Corner widgets. Corner widgets. If I click on it, you'll notice it changes the radius or the turn on the corner. And you'll notice that as I'm doing that, see how it shows a little R? And it's showing a decimal point? That's describing the radius. So I'm changing the size of the radius and I'm trying to make it smaller. All right, so now I'm going to try to see if it will let me scale this. Oh, I can scale it better now. Okay, so you see how I started off with a rounded rectangle and I manipulated the shape to match this edge of the eraser? All right, let me do it one more time. Rounded rectangle, draw the object. The corner widget's too big, so I'm going to make it smaller. Made it much smaller. Okay, now I'm going to go to the bounding box, and I'm going to manipulate this shape to make it match the eraser that I see here. Okay. What layer did I draw that shape in? What layer did I draw that shape in? Check out my file. What layer did I draw it in? The metal layer. So it's in the wrong layer. I need to move it to the eraser layer. So anybody tell me how I can move this to the eraser layer? Anybody remember? Drag the little square. I'm going to drag the little square to the eraser layer. So now it's in the eraser layer. So if I move this square, it'll move it from one layer to the other. So now it's in the eraser layer. Okay, I want to add the correct color to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this tool out here that looks like a little eyedropper. Do you see this little tool out here? I'm going to click on this tool, and I'm going to sample or click on the color of the eraser image. I'm going to click right here. Look what happens to my object. See how I just filled the color with it? Right, let me do that one more time. Right, so look, there's the outline. It's a blue outline. All right, I'm going to go to the eyedropper. It's out here. There it is, the eyedropper. And I'm going to click on the red of the, oops, I need to select my object. Whoops, made a mistake. Select my object, go to the eyedropper, click on the eraser. It assigns the color to it. Everybody got that? You guys good? Okay, you have a question, sir? One more time? Okay. You want me to draw the whole shape or yes, start from the beginning? Okay, let's start from the beginning. Okay, this time I'm on the eraser layer. So when I draw the shape, it should be there. Okay, so I'm going to go to the rounded rectangle. Here's my original rectangle. See the little corner widget, that little bullseye? See how wide the radius is? This radius is much smaller. See how small that is? I want to try to match it. So I'm clicking on the corner widget, and I'm going to try to change the radius of that shape. Change the radius of this shape. All right, now I'm going to manipulate this shape to match the eraser. Okay, so I'm going to select the object. I'm going to go to the eyedropper, click on the object, and it adds the color to it. Are we good? Okay, so I have a question for you. Did I draw the eraser the correct size? No. Do I have to draw the eraser exactly this shape? What do you think? Do I have to draw the eraser exactly that shape? Why not? Who said no? Why do I not have to draw that exactly that shape? Because I can cover it up with a metal shape. Exactly. So the metal shape and the eraser shape share an edge. They share an edge. So I can have this edge defined by this object if it's stacked on top. I can create the illusion of this edge by stacking this on top and making sure it's in that position. All right, so let's see that happen. Let's say I'm done with the eraser. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lock it. So that way I don't accidentally select it or move it. And I'm going to hide it with the eye icon while I draw the metal part. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle on the metal layer. And in this case, I'm going to use a red stroke. And once again, I'm going to go to the eyedropper and I'm going to sample a color. So there's my metal shape. I know it's not the right color. I know it's not metallic. It's kind of a gray, but I can always make it a gradient later. Okay, so I just want to give it a fill, a standard fill. So here's my metal shape. Here's the eraser shape. So you can see this creates the edge right there. Kind of looks like a hot dog now. Right, so there's the edge between the two. So I still have too much of the eraser left over. So if I was to draw the yellow shape on top of it, it'll hide that portion of the eraser as well. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this object here. And like I said, I like to draw them with a red outline and no fill. Red outline and no fill. I'm going to select this object. Oh, but before I do that, see how the yellow part has this little scalloped edge? So if I want to create this illusion, am I going to add to this shape or am I going to subtract from this shape? I'm going to subtract from this shape. So I'm going to show you a tool that allows you to interactively subtract. Okay? So if you look in your toolbar, you see this object that looks like a paintbrush. Okay? Go below it one. See this one called an eraser tool? Eraser tool. Let's click on the eraser tool. Now, the eraser tool has a brush head. You see that brush head? That's a brush head. If you double click on the eraser tool, you can change the size of the brush head. And right here, it shows you a preview of how big it's going to be. See this little preview right there? That's how big the brush head is going to be. So if I increase the size, that's how big the brush head will be. If I decrease the size, that's how big the brush head is going to be. So I'm going to make this brush head 20 points. 20 points. Okay? So eraser, erase. Is that a subtractive or additive tool? Subtractive. Okay? So look, here's my brush head, and I'm going to click right here. What did it do to the object? It just took away from it. Let me click right there. Oh, it took away from it. Right, so let me double click a little bit more. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Right, so now I'm going to click right here. So I'm taking away from the rectangle to create the overall shape of the pencil. So I'm going to select this, go to the eyedropper, click on the yellow. It's now a yellow side. So let me stack all of this together. Right, so what I have here, and look, I can hide my template. See, I'm hiding the reference image, clicking the template icon. Okay, so let's turn all this on and off. Here's my eraser. Here's the metal piece. Here's the shaft of the pencil. Okay? Let me do the shaft of the pencil one more time. And I'm thinking that after I show this one more time, you guys can finish drawing the rest. You can draw the wood part and you can draw the lead part. What tool would I use to draw a triangle? Does anybody remember? It's a primitive. There were two tools you can draw triangles with. Star and a polygon. Star and a polygon. If you make a three-sided polygon, you can draw a triangle. All right, let me do the yellow part again. So look, I'm going to draw the rectangle, and I'm going to draw it with a red outline because I like to compare the edge of the object that I'm illustrating versus my blueprint or my reference image. It doesn't line up perfectly. I need to subtract this little piece right here. I'm going to go to the eraser tool. There's the eraser tool. I'm going to double click on it to select the correct size for the brush. And then I'm going to erase from this object to create that little shape right there. All right, who can tell me how do I add the color to this red outline shape? How do I add the color to it? Where are you, Nancy? How do I add the yellow to this shape? Ooh, perfect. I have to select my object first. I just selected it. and then I select the eyedropper tool, and then I click on the yellow part, and it fills it with that color. Perfect. Great job. So at this point, I have 3 of my major objects illustrated. I have the eraser, I have the metal part, and I have the yellow part. I need 2 more. I need to do the little triangular wood, and then I'm going to do a triangular lead. Which one will be stacked on top? Which one will be stacked on top between these 2? What do you think? You think the wood will be stacked on top of the lead? I think I would do it the other way around. I would stack the lead on top of the wood. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. So I did a demonstration. I completed 3 out of the 5 objects. You saw how I made those, how stacking order is influencing how it's illustrated, and it's creating edges between certain objects. Okay, you'll also notice that my layers are organized. Okay, so, and then I also have a blueprint or a reference image, Okay, now when you turn your file in, if you don't see the reference image, I don't really care. I just want to see your vector for now. I only care about the illustration part.